Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for your interest in potentially becoming a parenting coach here at the Jaya Institute for Parenting. Michelle, thank you so much for sharing us with your community.
Hi. You're welcome.
Hi. You're welcome. So, to kick things off, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about kind of your journey to becoming a parenting coach, what that was like for you, and how you're divesting of what you learned here at Jai in your work now.
Yeah. So I started sharing about parenting back in 2021 on social media. And I was sharing about how we were trying to implement gentle parenting and how hard it was, and making super relatable content that a lot of people really resonated with. And my following started to grow from that. And so then I kind of like shifted to talking about like things that were working and things that weren't working, and like tips and tricks and stuff. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then I had been considering going and getting certified in parent coaching. Um, and I had already been looking into Jai. And so I decided to go ahead and make the plunge last fall. And what was really surprising to me was when I started, I went into it thinking, like, I'm just doing this for my certification. Like, I already know all there is to know about gentle and conscious parenting. This is just, the official certification. And I
I
ended
have
up going through
approval.
it. And I ended up going through it. And I learned so much more than I had already knew. And my parenting improved. I feel like it filled in a ton of blanks for me.
Mm.
Um, and after I went through Jai, I was able to start coaching other families one-on-one and in groups, whereas before I wasn't doing that. I was just offering social media support. And so, yeah, and now one-on-one coaching and group coaching is like one of my favorite things, and I love working with people directly. So,
Can you say a little bit more about what those blanks were that got filled in for you?
yeah, so I kind of knew all of the things to say and do when it comes to certain situations with the kids, like hitting and, talking back and stuff like that. But what I found was that it offered me more information about child development and kind of managing my own expectations and my own mindset. And then it also taught me a lot about how I was parented was directly affecting my own parenting. I just felt like it was a deeper dive than I had done from my own research. Because I didn't have guidance before. I was just researching things as they came up, but I felt like with Jai, it helped me put together a more coherent narrative of
Mm.
how I was raised, how I was parenting, why I was parenting the way that I was parenting, and how to move forward in a more conscious way.
I love that. So when you go through Jai, you spend the first 3 months being coached and watching other people be coached. Can you speak a little bit about the role? I think you were with Rebecca Liddon
Yes.
as your master trainer. Um, what that was like, and yeah, kind of the impact that being coached and watching other people coaching had on your transformation.
Yeah. So Rebecca is amazing. First off, I love Rebecca.
For real.
she she just has a way of explaining things that um you don't feel like hard on yourself about. You're just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's not like a beat yourself up type thing. Um, and so being coached was really helpful because it gave me a chance to like realize like what that was going to look like in my future and how to help other people. But also I had never been coached before, so it taught me a lot about the value of what any kind of coaching is and how coaching can help you reach your goals where you're stuck and you're kind of stuck in your own mindset until somebody else can hear that and like bring you out of it and
Mm.
tell you, okay, now go this way. Which I thought that was really transformational for me because I had some hangups and Rebecca was able to help me work through them. And a lot of it was like inner child work and inner child healing and stuff like that that I had been working on before Jai, but I felt like I was able to kind of complete the process
Yeah,
in coaching.
I love that so much. And so now that you're in the coach's seat, what does it feel like to be able to do that for other people?
Oh, it's great. I love it so much. I love when my clients have like those aha moments where they're like, oh, and I feel like I get so excited that I always lead them to those big aha moments, like in session 1 or 2, and they're like, oh, it all makes sense now. And I'm like,
I see. I can see. It is so gratifying. It really, I mean, I know I'm biased, but I think it's the best work in the world,
it
helping
is.
people actually become who they want to be and who they're beating themselves up relentlessly for not being, and to be able to foster that transformation and walk someone down that path. It really is quite humbling and awesome at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I wanted to address a few things in our time together today, and we'll keep this as brief as possible. I know you're all parents and working and busy. So first of all, I want to make some distinctions about what we mean by peaceful parenting here. There's a lot of kind of myths and misconceptions, and I think blind spots that we can have collectively as a community of parents all over the world who are longing to provide a different childhood experience for their children than perhaps you've had, I had, Michelle had. And then we'll talk about, I think Michelle just really encapsulated it beautifully, but I want to talk about the power of coaching and why it's actually essential for us to shift the culture around parenting from reactive, control, punitive, disconnected, busting the myths that, we have to have a terrible relationship with our children when they become teenagers. And on the other side, pave the way to have a lifelong, deep, connected, intimate, trust-based relationship with our children, where they want to come home for Thanksgiving, since that's right around the corner, and we're not, nobody's dreading it. So I think that's the ultimate goal. And then I'll share a little bit about our certification program, the curriculum, the structure. Okay, so peaceful parenting, conscious parenting, gentle parenting, intentional parenting, right? There's so many labels, and I think that it's really important to define what we mean by peaceful parenting here at the Jai Institute. Because I think, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. Michelle, tell me if you agree, because peaceful parenting doesn't mean that our children are always going to be peaceful. It doesn't even mean that we're always going to be peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
As peaceful parents, we still have boundaries, expectations, we set limits. I just made a video about, I've seen some other parenting influencers talk about, your kids aren't responsible for your feelings. And that's not exactly right either, because what we want to do is develop a securely attached relationship with our kids. And in any relationship, there's conflict. And we're going to do things that cause our children hurt feelings, disappointment, frustration. And our children, even as they get older, well, maybe even especially as they get older, are going to say things or do things that that cause us pain or frustration or disappointment. And the foundation of our work here is rooted in this fundamental concept that the goal of peaceful parenting is to create a family ethos where all feelings and needs matter, meaning parent and child, and that there's not a hierarchy of kind of the traditional parenting, right? I do because I said so, and I'm the authority, and I'm the adult, and you are smaller and less than and worth less. Or that the child feelings and needs are matter, and therefore we are in a way subserviating ourselves to their needs. They're trying to like wrap them with proverbial bubble wrap so that they never experience a challenge. From my perspective, my kids are 17 and 18 now. I wrote this down. Childhood is meant to be good, not easy. And so as peaceful parents, what we're doing is developing a capacity to be with all of our emotions, to accept all of our humanity. That's why this work is personal growth work for adults, because what we can accept in ourselves, we can accept in our kids. Mm-hmm. What we model in our behavior, our communication, our decision-making, and use that as fodder to bring our children into the fold, to grow with them so that we kind of become real human adults together, the deeper and more authentic our relationship will be. And so peaceful parenting is not about having perfect kids. It's not about being a perfect parent. It is not rooted in behavior modification, right? So the goal shifts from the old way where good behavior based on external influences, culture, family, society, keeping up with the Joneses, right? That our kids live into this ideal based on their behavior. Rather, we want to support them to develop intrinsic motivation, right? To do the right thing at the right time, even when no one is watching, to be rooted in the values that we've taught them consistently over time, so that when they become 18 or 21 or any age and go off into the world, they have the skills and the inner confidence and that knowing of who they are, the inner authority that will allow them to go out into the world and be creators, be risk takers, use their voice in the face of injustice, stand up for themselves and others, self-advocate, right? So, and these are skills that are required in this culture that we live in now. Whereas, I'm 50, right? So when I was growing up, right, like learning to fit in, learning to fall in line, compliance, right? Like that was kind of what was required at that time. So I loved looking at it this way, Michelle, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I just shared, because we're not saying traditional parenting or how our parents raised us was bad or wrong. They were good people who were doing the best with the information that they had for a culture that has evolved. And so parenting gets to evolve to meet the needs of our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And also, like, we've just studied psychology more and more over the past 30 years, and we're realizing that, authoritarian parenting is damaging to the relationship and to brain development. And that children learn more and quicker in an environment where they feel safe and heard and understood. And so, I think that it's not inherently wrong that, authoritarian parenting was a thing and that we were parented in that way. I just think that, we have adapted with what science is telling us now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think on the other side of the pendulum, right, because this is where Jai tries to find that beautiful both and, right, that that there's not a fixed way of parenting, that there are times that we are going to be required to be more authoritative, not authoritarian, right? But more firm, more direct, slow and low, as we say. And then there's going to be times where we can, let the leash be quite long to allow our children to experience life and learn from the natural consequences of their choices, right? To kind of like stand back and let them fail or let them fall, let them make a decision and follow through. So it's much more of an ebb and flow, I think, between, sort of what I'll say passive, that's different than permissive, and authoritative, which is different than authoritarian. And so as peaceful parents, we are going to use our judgment and our leadership to know how to show up in any given moment. And then as the kids get older, we're more towards that side. We're not like holding on, wishing our 13-year-old was still a baby and wanting to control all of their choices and decisions. It was really amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I love that the way that Jai approaches it as like their curriculum and coach training is that they set you up to intuitively know what you need and what your child needs instead of just giving you a bunch of scripts that might not work for you and your family. You know, Jai sets the parents up and coaches up to coach in a way that you will know when you need to be more firm and when you can be more flexible. You don't get a script that just tells you what to do and what to say.
I love that you just said this, because this is one of my other kind of like, if I had a megaphone and a soapbox, peaceful parenting isn't what you do. It's who you are, right? It's your ability to be vulnerable with your children, to repair the relationship when there's been a breach of trust, or we, go past a boundary of our child's, that, we're not going to just clam up into righteous indignation because we're the parent, but have an open heart to be able to say, wow, that wasn't my best moment. How was that for you? Tell me more. How did that feel? And let that in for our own growth and learning and evolution. It really is a mutual growth opportunity for parents and children. And it's why we train coaches. So I want to talk a little bit before we get into why coaches are necessary. I want to talk a little bit about brains and how they work. Because I know if you're here and you're watching, I'm going to imagine that you have an experience that 99.9% of this community has, which is you watch all Michelle's beautiful videos and you read books and you're like, okay, I'm not going to yell, or I'm going to stop using timeouts. And then chaos ensues because children, and we revert to the very same tendencies, actions, and behaviors that we've been promising ourselves we would stop, which then starts a shame cycle. And we spin up a story. I'm not a good parent. I'm not good enough. I'll never be like Michelle. And around we go. So what's true is that this is how brains work. There is conditioned patterns of behavior in our brain, right? Like the brain's job is to be as efficient as possible. So if you think about it like a muscle, right? If you have a really strong bicep and you don't have a strong tricep, I'm not a fitness expert, and you go to lift go to do too hard of a exercise with your tricep, your bicep will kick in, right? Because it's how the brain and the body are going to get there efficiently. And this is the same with how we react when we're angry or overwhelmed or hangry or exhausted. We will revert, the brain will kick us into autopilot, and we will use the most well-worn path that for most of us was conditioned before we were 7 or 8 years old, right? So when Michelle talks about making peace with your parenting past, this is important because we have to become aware of those conditioned patterns and resolve them in order to move forward in a more proactive way.
Mhm.
Coaches provide, number one, holding up the mirror, right? So that we can see ourselves clearly, that this way that we're behaving, that we're hearing from our children or our partner is hurting them, or we're seeing our kids withdraw, disconnect, be on their phones all the time in their rooms with their shut off. And we literally don't have any idea because these things lie in our blind spots and behind very well protective defense mechanisms, which by and large are trauma adaptations or emotional wounding adaptations that we created to feel safe when we were quite young. And so a coach, yes, holds up the mirror so that we can see those blind spots and defense mechanisms, acknowledge their benefit, right? Like we can't bust down a wall. You kind of have to soften it. And part of that is being able to see how this blind spot or defense mechanism has served you in your life, how it kept you safe. And then we can kind of make that prison, right? The walls that we've built up between us and intimacy in our relationships into kind of our bodyguard, right? Like we're going to still have those. We can't get rid of them, but we can reorient our relationship and become more self-aware. And coaches are required to do this. You can't see the tip of your nose without a mirror.
Mhm.
And then the second role that coaches play is to, with empathy and compassion, create accountability. Because if we were going to try to build that muscle, we can't just go to the gym once and then be angry that we still don't have a strong tricep. We need to consistently go to the gym and slowly and incrementally increase the resistance in order to create lasting change. Our brains work the same way. And so I love that the world is waking up to peaceful parenting. But the reason here at the Jai Institute for Parenting that we train coaches instead of just, selling our 12-week parenting course directly to parents is without coaching, for 99.9% of people, change will not happen. And then we're back in the shame cycle. And, maybe it's our kids that will do the work. And so coaches are essential to transformation.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. I like to this is my favorite part of coaching is that everybody's unconscious reasoning for their defense mechanisms and, why they're struggling is so different. And I love figuring out each reason with each client and then showing and holding that mirror up for them and showing them what it is. But that's the thing, right? Is like if you don't have a coach, it's unconscious. So you're not aware of, your pattern, or you're aware of your pattern, but you're not sure why until somebody can like see it and then show it to you. And then also like give you, at least with my clients, I give them homework every week on how to practice these skills so that, after some time together, they see a big change because they practice what I've given them from what I know, from what Jai has taught me about how the brain works and the unconscious thoughts that you get stuck in that put you in the guilt and the shame spiral.
I love that so much. I think another misconception people have is that the way that we respond under stress is entwined in our identity, right? This is who I am. And it's just such a limiting belief, right? Because it keeps us from the potential of the relationship that we can have with certainly our own children, but really everyone, our life partners, people we work with, friendships. And so understanding that the tools that we teach are learnable skills nervous system regulation, right? Being able to stay calm and grounded, even when the house is on fire, proverbially speaking, of course. Emotional intelligence, right? Like we learned how to feel our feelings and either express them or stuff them or ignore them or talk over them, distract ourselves, numb ourselves, reach for a glass of wine or Netflix or TikTok in order to not feel. We learned that behavior from our family of origin. And so as adults, if we can become more emotionally intelligent, we're setting our children up to actually have healthy emotional expression the whole time, which is one of the most powerful tools that we can give them. Communication. Most of us learned communication from people who, again, unconsciously, not knowing any different, really relied on power and demands and shame and, a
Manipulation.
winner. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, there's a book that we read in the curriculum, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's life-changing, you guys. You should read it, whether or not you decide to become a coach here at JAI. But there is a way that we can communicate through conflict that does not cause harm to ourselves or others, where we do not need to betray ourselves by people pleasing or acquiescing or fawning or coddling. And we can work together to get needs met, to solve problems, to cooperate with effective communication. So these are just a few of the foundations of the work that we do at JAI, but these are all learnable skills for adults.
Yeah, I didn't learn emotional regulation skills until I was like 27.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it is possible.
It's totally it's like it's just, I think it's so empowering to know that behavior change, and this takes so much vulnerability, right, Michelle, to have that moment with your child where something happens that causes pain. And you actually have that moment of insight where you're like, oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, ooh, ooh.
Does my kid not listen, or maybe I just don't know how to
Mm.
parent the right way?
Yeah. I saw a post the other day where a father was telling a story, and he had been really short with his wife. He had a bad day at work and just kind of snipped at her to chill out. That was the word. Like, I just told her to chill out. And then his 3-year-old son said, yeah, mom, chill out. And this dad, right, like amazing self-awareness, amazing ability, was like, whoa, what am I teaching my son in terms of how he communicates with his mother? And he did a beautiful job. But I think it hasn't been true that adults have been willing to take that level of responsibility in the past. The kids, right, they need to change, they need to fix their behavior. And so our job as coaches is to open the doorways, right? We could talk about the 5D coaching process that we use, but we find those doorways of these, what's that word that I want? Scenarios, these kind of like moments in time to open a doorway for an adult to transform so that their children can learn through modeling, because children actually do what we do, not what we say. Michelle, will you talk a little bit about the 5D coaching process that you use with your clients?
Yeah. So it's essentially we start talking about, their past so they can create a coherent narrative. And to get comfortable talking about these things with a stranger. And I'm able to help them realize their unconscious thoughts and what keeps them stuck in that same pattern, and kind of point it out to them. And the way that I coach, I make it really relatable. I'm like, this is exactly what I went through, like this is my thing and this is what I was able to work through. So like, I know that you can too. and here's what you do, and here's what helped me and stuff like that. And so after we've kind of brought the awareness to it, there's some skill that I'm able to teach to them that Jai has taught me. And then I like to say that the way that I coach is 50% skill and 50% mindset. So, like, you can go out and learn the skills all day long, but that's only half the picture. And that's where the other half is value that the coach brings, is that 50% mindset stuff. They'll say little things that I'll catch, and I'm like, I think that can be shifted, because that mindset is keeping you stuck in this phase and they don't realize it. So I'm able to help kind of pick out different things that they say and walk them through this process. And that's where true transformation lies, is, seeing the whole picture of who they are and why they are the way that they are, and giving them skill to put into practice to grow, and also still be aware of their mindset throughout the process. And I think that is the invaluable skill that coaches bring to the table.
100%. 100%. So the Jai Institute for Parenting has been training parenting coaches since 2011. I think we were the second parent coach certification to ever be a thing. It's a very new industry, which means that there's so much opportunity. 90-something% of the world doesn't even know that parent coaching is a thing yet. And I know it can feel different if your Instagram feed is full of parenting experts, but that just demonstrates how interested you are in parenting and your passion, because algorithms. So what Jai is really known for is that we provide two levels of transformation. And the first is as a parent or a professional who's working with parents for yourself. One of our sayings around here is leaders go first. And I think a lot of us, when we're thinking about becoming a parenting coach, we're like, who am I to do that? Are people even going to listen to me? Is this even going to work? Could I actually turn this into a business, right? All that imposter syndrome stuff is real at the beginning. And so this first opportunity of transformation is important, because I don't know about you, Michelle, but I could not make a promise to somebody else that I hadn't experienced for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt the same way. And that's what kept me from practicing, direct support and coaching and stuff before I was certified, because it was that mindset of, who am I to be able to promise this person a transformation when I don't know what that looks like?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So the first 3 months with us, you actually go through our transformational parenting coaching program yourself, with a small cohort of up to 16 other students, with a trainer. We have an amazing training staff, Rebecca, who Michelle worked with, but all of our trainers are incredible in their own right, so that you're able to be coached, and more importantly, witness other people being coached. We're a global organization, so there are people from all over the world, different socioeconomic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, religious backgrounds. And this is important, because these are someday going to be potentially just like the clients that you'll get to work with as a coach. And so this transformation, this personal growth program that we offer for parents, you're the first customer. You get to go first. And then in the second 3 months of the program is where we really train you to coach that curriculum. We start switching seats. You work with a practice client. There's a lot of role playing, going into breakout rooms and practicing coaching skills, because learning to coach well is like riding a bike. You can watch other people do it. You can watch videos of the bike. You can read books about the bike, but until you get on it and fall down and skin your knees a few times, you can't learn to ride the bike. And then in the final month with us, we teach you business skills. Not everyone is like Michelle, and doesn't come to Jai with tens of thousands of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers, right? Many of our graduates have been working in other careers. They are former educators, or they want to add this parent coaching offering to their practice as a traditional mental health provider or pediatrician, people who are stay-at-home parents whose kids are maybe going into school for the first time and want to be able to work part-time, earning money for their family, but want to pick their kids up from school every day, right? So they're starting from scratch. And so our business training is really focused on getting your first clients, putting together your pricing and packaging for your one-on-one and group coaching, getting out and being visible in a way that's very doable, even if you're starting from ground zero, right? How do you go give talks in your local schools and libraries? We teach you all of that. So that's the fastest path to actually getting clients and having a return on investment of the tuition that you're going to invest in becoming a parenting coach. The way that our program works is it's delivered all online. So you'll meet with your cohort once a week for an hour with your trainer. We have a very robust online learning center, which you have lifetime access to. There's way too much information in there to think that you'll get through it all the first time around. Right, Michelle?
I go back frequently.
Yeah, she's like, true story. But for each week, there's a video and a workbook, and then there's supporting research, additional videos, additional reading that you can do. But you'll do that on your own time. You'll be in a practice coaching circle, so you can start getting on the bike and practicing riding, and you're really beautifully supported through the entire 7-month journey. Our goal is that you graduate from our program feeling competent and confident enough to go into the world and get your first 3 to 5 clients. Then the more you coach, the more confidence you'll get, the more referrals you'll start to get. You can start to increase your fees, right? That happens over time. Confident, it's the analogy I always make is like this, like driver's ed, right? And then you get your license at the end. But it takes a while before you feel really confident, merging onto a highway. And I just want to be really transparent. That is true for coaching as well. But it's
that was my experience.
What'd you say?
That was definitely my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I want to normalize that because any new skill is going to feel wobbly at the beginning. But we only need to be one step ahead of where our client is. And we have the curriculum, right? So I think that's such a safety net for our students is you're really coaching a curriculum that is done for you, is turnkey. We have videos, we have workbooks, everything that you need to create change in a person is there for you. And the skills that you bring to coaching are going to get better and better and better and better and better the more that you do it. Mm-hmm. So there is that kind of being a little scared and doing it anyway, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. When I first graduated, I think I had 4 clients within like a month and a half.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
It was very scary. But, after I worked them through the first 12 weeks with those first 4 clients and saw their own transformations, that's when you get that confidence.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, like I can actually help people and make a difference and change things. And then so from there, when the confidence grew, then I was able to go out and get even more clients and raise my rates and not be so heavily reliant on the curriculum, but kind of come into my own of, how I like to coach based on the curriculum and stuff like that. So that comes with time.
Yeah. You've talked a lot about mindset as a parent and helping the parents that you support shift their mindset. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of mindset in having a business?
Oh, yes.
I thought you might say that.
It's so connected. So, you have all of these unconscious thoughts as a parent that, a parent coach holds up a mirror to, and it's like, here you go. Here's what you need to work on. And then you get to owning a business and those same unconscious thoughts come back just in a different facet. And then you have to be like, oh, I'm actually holding myself back here. It's nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
And then you're able to work through that and grow even more as a business owner, and work on your mindset when it comes to business. Like one of the things that you said earlier is a mindset thing of like when you graduate and you're scared and you're like, who am I? How can I help people? I have nothing to offer. Those are limiting beliefs that you're placing on yourself. And that keeps you stuck in that cycle of maybe not going out and getting clients or being too scared to put yourself out there. So continually working on that mindset is key for a successful business, and it is possible. And once you start to get confidence and see how you are able to offer transformations for parents, I love my favorite thing about working with clients is seeing their testimonials afterwards and going back and rereading those when I feel down or doubting myself. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I have changed families' lives.
I
And
do
there's
that
no
every
arguing with
time things get hard running a business. It is not the easy pill. And my go-to is to go read our Google reviews. Like when
that.
I'm having a bad day and I just want to curl up in a ball and cry my face off, I make myself go read our Google reviews because that's what makes the hard worth it. We're changing lives, we're impacting all the children, not only of the coaches that we train, right? Like that's one set of children, but then all of the children of the families that our coaches coach. And we're talking probably like hundreds of thousands of children
Mhm.
that Jai is now helping and supporting in some way. And so, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do scary, hard things.
Yeah. And plus, like your own family and your own life. Like, I'm pregnant and I have two small children, 5 and under. And I have it set up to where I work while they're at preschool and then I go pick them up and then I don't work for the rest of the afternoon and I spend time with them and I'm able to connect with them as a parent. And so I do get the best of both worlds where I can help my family financially and still raise my kids and bring another kid into the world. Like
Yes.
I'm able to have both.
I love it. I love it. Well, if you're curious to learn more, I'm going to share a link here in just a minute, but I just want to walk you through the process of becoming a coach here at Jai. Um, so we do have an application and admissions process. We just want to make sure that we're a good fit for you and that you're a good fit for us. And that you really understand the time commitment, how the cohorts work. And so if you're interested in exploring further, I'm going to send you to an information page that has all of the information on our program. And you'll see a link to apply here. There's a very short application. It should take you definitely less than 10 minutes, probably closer to 5. The one thing that I would ask you to do is there's a question that says, where did you hear about us? If you would just write Michelle's name in the so that we know, so that we can get you your extra special bonuses. If you choose to move forward, that would be great. Once you fill out the application, you'll be taken to a scheduling page for one of our group Get Acquainted sessions. These are small groups led by our director of admissions, Kelly Arzonico. She'll share a little bit more about the details of Jai, answer all of your questions. She has all of our upcoming cohorts that she can share with you. And then, it falls in your court whether you want to move forward or not. So the URL to join is jaiinstituteforparenting.com, JAI Institute for parenting.com/start dash here. Michelle, thanks so much for taking the time, sending you like the biggest virtual hug. We got to hang out in Colorado a few weeks ago. It was so fun.
It was. It was.
When I got home, I was like, that was actually like, it was one of those experiences where it was so good that it blew out my nervous system. Has that ever happened to you? It was like so
Yeah.
much goodness that I was like, I don't quite know what to do with all of this.
I got home and I was like, I'm ready to get to work.
Well, I'm right there with you. Keep being amazing, Michelle. We just adore you. I adore you. For everyone watching, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or there's anything further that we can do to support you. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us.